Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm a bit late. It's a very hectic time in Albany. We do have this meeting scheduled from 11 until noon. We used to do 90 minutes. We are hoping we can do this in 60 minutes today, or now 54 minutes because of area. I'm chairing the housing committee at noon, and also I know DC has a commitment at noon as well. So again, this is our meeting of the 250 Water Street Working Group. It is recorded and posted, so some people might be watching it later. The group is co-convened by the Office of Congressman Dan Goldman, Assemblymember Grace Lee, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, Councilmember Chris Marte, and Community Board 1, and I am Senator Brian Kavanaugh, also co-convening. We may be resuming a more regular meeting schedule as work resumes on the site. As most people on this call know, we are going to be talking about some resumption of remediation work today. And, we had met more or less monthly until the fall, and there's been a bit of a hiatus since our last meeting, but we're back. So we're going to go through some updates on the Brownfield Cleanup Program with DEC, Langan, and AKRF, and then updates from the community consultants, Laura Dodge and Tom Fasillo, and then community stakeholder discussion and Q&A after that. So I guess I'll offer opportunity for any of the co-convening elected officials or Community Board 1 to, if you have any just opening comments, otherwise we'll just jump right into the agenda. Okay, hearing none. Do you want to, DC, are you ready?
Sure. Good morning. Happy New Year, because I haven't seen most of you since 2022. Hard to believe that we're already in March of 2023. For those that may be new on the line, because I can't see who's all participating today, I am Heidi Dudek. I am the Section Chief for DEC Division of Environmental Remediation, overseeing the 250 Water Street Brownfield Cleanup Program remediation. I'm joined today online by Department of Health, who I'll let introduce themselves in just a minute. And then I also have online our project manager, Rafi Alm. And then I also have joining us today two other members of DER, DEC, who will be doing the work of the former, it's not really off-site work, but work outside of the Brownfield Cleanup Program, the delineation of contamination that may be related to the thermometer factory outside of the BCP site. So I will let them introduce themselves. I think they're online. Sarah, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start. I'm Sarah Quant. I'm also Section Chief of the Albany office within DER, and I'll let Mike go.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Felicito from DEC. I'm just a project manager along with Rafi.
All right, DOH, do you want to just briefly, so that everybody knows who's on the line for DOH?
Sure, this is Scarlett Nessie McLaughlin. I'm the region chief for New York City area. I work alongside Heidi, Sarah, and all the other people at DEC and communities on looking at exposure and whatnot in regards to sites. I have my project manager for the 250 Water Street site on the phone here as well, Sarita Wah, her supervisor Renata Ackerby, and my assistant region chief Jacqueline Nealon. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, so as it was alluded to in the intro from Senator Kavanaugh, work is starting to ramp up for the 2023 season. I'll let Langan go over what's going to happen on site in the BCP site. Sarah and Mike are joining you today because they are going to begin the off-site investigation, or the investigation located outside of the BCP site. There's some legality terms with off-site. It's not associated with the BCP site. And they are going to be working around the school schedules and that. So they are in the process of doing the planning. They're ready to go, but they understand that, the community has concerns about work and they're looking to begin later this spring, early this summer. So that work is in the planning stages. We'll keep everybody up to date on that. DEC has been looking at the plans for the phase 2 of 250 Water Street BCP site. Langan's going to go through that, and we are in, just as we were in 2022, in constant communication with them to make sure that we're everything is going as planned. Other than that, and just to say that 2023 should be the year that everything is completed there, and we can issue a certificate of completion for the remediation of 250 Water Street, and everybody can breathe a sigh of relief that the site has finished up. That's it for me.
Great.
Great.
So I think,
Great.
excellent. Thanks, Brian. Okay, so I'm Mimi Ray-Gordetsky from Langan. 2 of my colleagues are on the line with me, Paul McMahon and Mike Au. Mike is going to run a slide deck, and I'll step everyone through really our big accomplishments during phase 1 and what is planned for phase 2 of remediation. Next slide, Mike. Okay, so just looking back briefly on phase 1 remediation achievements, the biggest achievement, of course, is that the mercury and petroleum hotspot remediation is complete. Approximately 55% of the site has been remediated to track 2. That's more than half the site, which is great. We're more than halfway there, and the worst of it, so to speak, is done. We removed 8 underground petroleum storage tanks. We operated the camp during all soil intrusive activities, and we collected a total of 29 confirmation endpoint soil samples. Next. Okay, so this figure, again, just to remind everyone, the salmon color is the former mercury hotspot area, which has been completely removed. And the purple color is the petroleum hotspot, which has also been completely remediated. I want to just draw your attention to a couple of things here. Basically, the upper table here is looking at maximum and average concentrations of mercury and petroleum related compounds, both in the hotspots and on the balance of the site before phase 1 remediation and after phase 1 remediation. So if you look at mercury in the mercury impacted hotspot, the concentration before, average concentration before remediation was about 68 micrograms per kilogram. And when you look at the average after, as documented by our documentation samples, the concentration was reduced to about 1.35 milligram per kilogram. That's a 96 or 98% reduction. And similarly, when you look at the petroleum impacted area, the average concentrations based on our RI data were about BTEX compounds were about 242 microgram per kilogram. And based on the confirmation samples, the residual average concentration is about 0.03 milligrams per kilogram, which is about a 98% reduction, 99% reduction. This is really to just demonstrate to everyone how effective the cleanup was during phase 1 remediation. Next slide. All right, so just looking at the confirmation endpoint soil samples, as I mentioned, we've collected 29 of them across phase 1 remediation. That's about 55% of the site that has been remediated and that has met track 2 remediation criteria. You can see the green means that the endpoint sample has been collected and the data achieves track 2 remediation criteria. The gray means that the sample has been collected, but there is still some additional work to do. This is really where there was a ramp located and where we know we need to do some additional excavation. So those samples will be recollected at a later date in the areas that are gray. And we will hope they'll meet track 2 criteria as well. The areas in white are really where we have work still to do during phase 2 remediation. Next. Okay, this is just really an aerial that shows that phase 1 has been remediated, and the area left to excavate is phase 2, which is in the gray part of the site on the left-hand side of the figure. Next. And this shows one of the first things that we'll be doing as part of phase 2 remediation, which is bumping out the fence along Beekman and Water Street. So the blue line shows the existing fence line, and the green line shows where the fence will be bumped out along Beekman and Water Street. Next. And this slide goes into what phase 2 remediation will consist of. So I'll go over each of these items. It's generally pretty similar to what we did during phase 1. There is going to be a mass excavation and offsite disposal of about 13,000 cubic yards of soil and fill. There will be installation of support and excavation along the remainder of Pearl and Water Streets and along the entirety of Beekman Street. The supportive excavation, if you recall, that's essentially kind of a wall of bracing that does two things. One, it allows for the excavation to be performed to the planned development depth, and it also provides a groundwater cutoff around the perimeter of the site, which allows for the deep excavation to be reached as well. We will also be most likely removing and decommissioning one underground storage tank really along Beekman Street. This was an anomaly that was identified using geophysical means during the remedial investigation. And we anticipate that when we excavate in that area, we will identify a UST, and it will be managed in accordance with the remedial action work plan. We will also be implementing an approved camp during soil disturbance activities, and we will be collecting the balance of the confirmation endpoint samples to document that a track 2 remediation was achieved. Next. As far as schedule goes, we anticipate that we will be starting this work in April of 2023, and it is anticipated to take about 7 months to complete. Notification will be provided prior to the start of work and for weekend work if it is scheduled. And as always, want to remind everyone that Howard Hughes has set up a website, 250bcp.com, which will have all of our daily reports, any updates, and it also has the phone number for anyone to call in the event that they have any concerns about the work that we're doing. And that's it, I think. Any other slides, Mike? No? Okay.
Nope, that's it.
Awesome. Okay, that's our update.
Okay, do we have something from AKRF as well?
I think that Elizabeth was just going to speak to archaeology, although there's really nothing new to update. So I don't know if she had trouble getting into the call. I don't see her name on here, but I can try to track her down in the meantime.
Would we be able to see that picture of the fence moving out on Beekman Street? I just kind of wanted to.
That, yes, you would, that would be appreciated.
And this is Heidi Dudek from New York State. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Just to let the stakeholders know and the community, DEC will once again be providing oversight to the site. I meant to put that in my notes earlier.
We appreciate that.
Just a quick question. Is the
I just wonder if we might go to the community consultants and then do questions or kind of look back at any elements of the presentations?
Brian, you're breaking up a little bit, but yeah, I think let's go to the community consultants and then we'll do discussion Q&A. And if Elizabeth gets on, we can circle back to her.
Can I just ask a question about
Great,
this picture?
please. Yeah.
Is the fence, the trucks on the side of there, and then it looks like the entry and exit is that moving? I'm just curious because the truck doesn't look like it's where the fence is or where the entrance is.
I do not know whether the entrance is going to stay the same or not. I think we may still be waiting for means and methods from the contractor that's going to be performing the excavation. Just to note, it is usual that during site construction and remediation on construction sites around the city that sometimes the egress and sometimes it moves, but I'm not quite sure what is planned right now. I don't know if anyone else from Howard Hughes knows.
We can get back to you to confirm that.
This is Elaine Kennedy. I also have a question while we're on this slide. I see that we're bumping out on Water and Beekman, but what about the bump out on Pearl Street where there's existing mercury factories that were supposed to be remediated on Pearl? Directly.
This is Heidi Dudek for that. That's the state's work. That was what I was referring to earlier. We're going to have to coordinate with the BCP site so that we're not interfering with their work, but we are going to begin our investigation later this spring or early this summer.
On Pearl?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll coordinate for the work that needs to be completed within the fenced area, so as not to interfere with the active remediation.
I'm still not following, because Pearl Street, we need to go into the street beyond the existing fence line.
Correct. We have to first do an investigation, which is something that we're in the process of planning right now. That's Sarah and Mike. We understand that the fence is there, so we know that we have to take samples within the fence line and outside of that. So our goal is to get that done, or to begin the work early this spring and this summer. And then once that delineation has been completed, we'll determine whether or not remediation needs to be completed. But at this point in time, we're planning that, and we know that because of the way the entrances and egresses are to the active site, we'll have to coordinate because we don't want to get in their way. That would be dangerous for everybody. And then we'll coordinate within the fenced area, but the work outside the area will also be going on at that time. But that's going to be later this spring or early this summer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Why don't we go to Laura Dodge now?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I understand from coordinating with Langan last week that there will be the use of odor suppression foam on site. It'll be available on site in the event it's used. I just wanted to bring that up. And we also understand that there might be proposed changes to the camp, and I think those would probably come after you've substantially are underway for phase 2. Which is something that, I guess we'll address that when it comes. But for the start of phase 2, the camp is going to be what was originally in place for the phase 1 remediation. Just wanted to confirm that. If whoever wants to respond to that question, they can just do that now as I'm going, if that's okay. Just want to confirm there's no changes initially when you initiate phase 2.
Heidi, do you want to touch on that?
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Sorry.
Sorry.
Too many mute buttons this morning. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, that's what the intent. We're looking at everything, and that once we feel comfortable that, the mercury has been remediated because the hotspot has been done, we're going to coordinate that based on the RI data. And then, if we feel that we're at a point where we can modify it, obviously we would be having those discussions, not just with Langan, but also with the community consultants.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Great. The other thing I understand is that there's going to be some additional soil borings. I know there was some talk about those having been done before, and there was a little confusion as to whether they were done. I don't think they have been, right? And that's
They have
for,
not been done. That's correct. We
right.
need to do two things. One is some additional waste characterization that's being required by disposal facilities for that will be receiving soil during phase 2 remediation, and also a couple more geotechnical borings that the contractor will perform to confirm some preliminary geotechnical findings.
Right, and on the same vein so the soil borings will be conducted in the next few weeks, actually this month, right? So,
Perhaps this month, if not very early in April.
okay,
That's the
so
plan.
the same notifications will be provided to the community in advance of those borings being conducted? And how
I
long,
believe so. I
how
think
long
we've
is that?
actually have it drafted. We just are waiting for confirmation on schedule to send it.
Okay, how long is that gonna take? About a week?
I would guess around a week.
Okay, just so the community is aware. And then, if you could just speak to the timing and method of the rest of the foundation piles. Because obviously there was the initial pile set that was put in, and now the rest of them will be conducted. So if you could just speak to that, the
Sure.
method and approximate timing and duration.
The piles that will be installed are displacement piles. They do exactly that. They basically displace soils as they are driven into the subgrade. It's a great technology to use because it tends to produce few spoils. So that's what we will be using. As for the timing, I believe we plan to take the site down a couple of feet, and that should take a couple of months. And then we will be doing the perimeter pile installation for the SOE and around the balance of the site. And then we'll take we'll continue to excavate to planned development depth.
Right. And so what's the estimated duration for pile installation from beginning to end? Like number of months?
I don't know if we know yet. Paul, do you know?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a question for, I don't know if Suffolk is on, or
Yeah.
Jerry or Jay.
Hey guys, this is Jay with Suffolk. Pile duration is approximately 5 months.
5 months. Okay, thank you. And these are drilled piles, right? Not driven.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's important for the community to be aware that they're drilled and not driven. So it should help with some of the noise, although it's a construction site, so there still will be some of that. So just trying to set expectation levels, that, you know, the reason I mentioned the use of the foam is because I think it's important for the community to be sort of prepared for the fact that in some of these areas, there still could be some odor generation, not necessarily because of environmental impacts from discharges historically, but just from the materials that you're going to be encountering that will form a shoreline area. You know, that some of that material when it's unearthed, you know, could have odor associated with it. And so I think it's important to let the community know that and have that be in anticipation, all the more reason for having the foam, the odor suppression foam. And from what I understand, that the same methodology will be used with the socks along the inside of the fencing to try to help with management of odors as well. But important for the community to be thinking about the fact that this could still be something that occurs. So we want to make sure that the right lines of communication, which maybe, Mimi, if you could just reiterate exactly what members of the community should be doing in the event that there are concerns that come up.
Absolutely. Everyone should call the hotline that Howard Hughes has set up, and I'm hopeful that someone from Howard Hughes or Langan can put that in the chat since I haven't memorized the number. But that is a great, you know, first step. That the hotline is manned or womaned, and response is generally very fast, and it's a direct line of communication to Howard Hughes and the construction team. You can also always call DEC as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there are concerns, they can go through CB1 too, and then they'll be directed to the consultants to try to provide support. Hopefully that won't be necessary, but you know, that's also always available. Truck traffic is anticipated to be about the same as it was in the last go around because of the volume of soil is about the same as in terms of what you anticipate. So that's good. And I think that's all I have. Thank you for the update.
Thanks.
Great. So I see we do have a couple of hands, but if we could go to Tom first, and then we'll go back to any other questions.
Thank you, Senator. Just a few comments. Just reiterating the things that that Laura went over. I mean, we've been in contact. The primary concerns Blue School has, I guess, one comment relates to the moving of the fence. I know Water Street is a fairly narrow street at that location where the fence is going to be moved. So just want some assurances that there will be sufficient clearance for vehicles to be able to drive along Water Street to drop off kids at Blue School. Can you speak to that? It's hard to tell from that map.
Yeah, Jerry, you want to clarify on that?
Sure. So both of those fence relocations are to be in the lane closure, which DOT would grant us along those streets. It's a 12-foot lane, parking lane width only. The vehicular traffic will still be unimpeded on those roads.
Okay, that's good to hear. And then from the perspective of the excavation and remediation, you know, the Blue School's concerns continue to be noise, odor, and vibration. I was glad to hear that the piles will be drilled piles, not driven piles. But you know, likewise, the issues that the noise and vibration issues that did occur previously continue to be a concern. They did affect the ability to have classes for some days, and then the odors that also impacted the schools during certain periods. So it sounds like all of the methods that were being used before will be used to alleviate those issues. And then I guess the other thing is during the previous work, there had been a pause in the morning for an hour or a half hour, 45 minutes to allow school drop off to occur in a relatively peaceful manner. So I think Blue School would be interested in having that happen again so that the school drop-offs can occur without sort of the distractions of ongoing construction literally a few feet away. So could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think we'll look at that again. I think we tried to the greatest extent possible to line up the scheduled break. I think there was the time for the PEC slip and Blue School drop-offs didn't quite line up. But we will, you know, make best efforts to try to minimize the work during that period without compromising the overall schedule.
Okay, we appreciate that. That's all from me.
Brian, I see Elizabeth from AKRF is on, so if we want to just do a quick archaeological update and then 2 questions.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you ready to go?
Yes, hello, sorry, there's an issue with the login. So I don't have much of an update since the last couple updates, which were a little repetitive. Nothing, you know, we've just been kind of waiting for things to start up again. So our team is prepared to resume the monitoring as needed. As a reminder, the archaeological monitoring is required when excavation on the site is below a depth of 8 feet. So we'll be out there monitoring and looking for some exciting archaeological finds. So
Great. We
that's pretty much
appreciate
it.
your being here and the update on the update. And just before recognizing that some people may not have access to the chat and others may be viewing the recorded version of this later, the 250 Water Street construction hotline was mentioned a minute ago. For calls or SMS messages, the number is 917-962-8166. And for email, it is info@250WS, as in 250 Water Street, 250WS constructionhotline.com. So again, those are ways people can get in touch or make express concerns about anything that's going on at the site. Okay, so I think that concludes our various presentations. I think we just have time now for community Q&A and comments. So I saw Jason Friedman first.
Hi, guys. I just wanted a little bit more clarity on the Water Street bumping out, because right now it's, I guess the fence is on the curb line basically, and then there's no parking on the west side, and then there's parking on the east side. So will it be such that you'll bump out that fence and then remove the parking on the east side to allow for the 12-foot or to allow for passage? Is that kind of the strategy there?
Yes, that's exactly right. The DOT
So
would
no
grant
parking.
us a lane closure for the purposes of construction logistics, and we would take that lane.
Right. Okay. And then similarly, I guess on Beekman Street, although the inverse, where there's no parking on the whatever, the south side.
That's right.
Okay. One more follow-up question. Once this whole thing is done with the fences and the SEO, whatever, we won't see those areas back until the project is completed, like in its development of the site, or will there be a time period where whoever's there, call it Suffolk, call it whoever, the remediation's done, the holding back of the soil's done, the fence will move back? It won't be like that, right? The fence will stay there until the project is completed. Is that correct? Most likely?
Most likely, but the logistics could and might change over the course of the job. But yes, we'll probably use that real estate for the construction of the balance of the job, which would continue up through after foundations.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Next up, Alice Blank.
Thanks, Senator, and hello all. One question, one comment. Question to Elizabeth, thanks so much. Could you just describe in terms of what might be expected to be uncovered? And am I wrong that site, the new site or the second part of this, is slightly more sensitive for potential archaeological finds or not?
Not necessarily. I think it all has the same general level of sensitivity and general expectation of what might be there. So it's the same types of things that we've discussed on these meetings in the past, particularly landfill and landfill retaining structures. So kind of the deposits that would have been put in place and the structures built to hold the deposits in place so that it could become developable land in the 17th through 19th centuries, that kind of thing. So it's more of the same that we've talked about on these meetings.
Okay, thanks. And then just one comment, just to sort of to state the obvious, but I don't think Laura at Excel has yet been hired for phase 2 here. And obviously the community would very much like to have her on board for this. So I assume that there's something being negotiated with Howard Hughes, and thank you in advance, but just want to make sure that's actually going to be happening.
Thank you for raising that, Alice. I assume this is not a forum to negotiate a contract, but just to say, Laura's been a critical part of
Correct.
this. So we want to make sure that we do resolve that. Okay.
I'm done. Thanks very much.
All right. I heard a yes from Howard Hughes as well.
Yeah, we're working through the details of that.
Good.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Next, I think I saw Adam next.
Hi, Senator. Thank you for resuming this forum. We really appreciate it, and good to see everyone again after, I think, roughly a 5-month hiatus. Once again, I'm on the Southbridge Towers Board of Directors. So I have wanted to first just echo Alice's comment about Laura. We look forward to having her around for a while through the next phase. And then I had a couple of questions around the noise mitigation plan. First and foremost, do we have an update on the placement of noise monitors? I know last time it was still kind of, I think they were trying to get in the Blue School. We, as Southbridge, had some shareholders who were willing to put them up on their balcony, but we heard they were still waiting to place them elsewhere. This is the first question. Second question is, as part of the noise mitigation, it was said they would reach out to everyone facing the site and like sort of adjacent to the site and making sure they have double pane windows and air conditioners. Here at Southbridge, they told us they would only do through window air conditioners, while our building is built for through wall air conditioners. And we have over 200 shareholders who are low income seniors, and we would like, given their financial constraints, we would like them to provide through wall air conditioners for those who have non-functioning air conditioners. These are low income seniors. We have, so I think it would be brutal, for them to deal to the noise. And then finally, my third question is, has every building that is, eligible, has that noise mitigation action happened where they've reached out and inspected the apartments or buildings facing the site to make sure they have double pane windows and air conditioning? Thank you.
I can address the last question, and we have reached out to all affected units, and we are working with the handful of those that have requested that their air conditioners, that they either get window units or that their air conditioners get installed through the wall in the case of Southbridge.
The shareholders I heard from were told that they got a clear no. So if that is true on through wall, I would be more than happy to update our shareholders who thought they didn't qualify, but maybe I misheard it because I haven't seen a communication going around. It's just from the handful of shareholders I heard. They were told, no, this is through wall and we can't provide that.
Yeah, I don't think that's correct, but we can follow up separately. We've been in touch, through your, board of directors and management company, and we've been working with, the few residents that qualify and that don't have working air conditioners to come up with the best solution for them.
Okay, I will check with our management company and make sure that's occurring. But
Hey, Adam, is there a number that, or a person that someone can reach out to that if somehow they got left out of this loop?
They can reach out to Michael Tucker, who's been coordinating it on our side, or they can, frankly, they can. Yeah, I'll put that number in the chat.
Yeah, that would be great because, like I said, other people heard otherwise, and so I'd love for them to, get this before it starts getting warmer as the work begins.
Okay, great. And if it's not resolved, it sounds like Adam might clarify and resolve it. If it's not resolved, please do keep us in the loop as well.
Great. And then in terms of the noise monitors, does anyone know?
We have DEP on. I think Umberto, I saw him. If you have an update on those noise sensors and the placement.
Hi, Emily. Hello, Senator, everyone. Thank you for the question. So just to provide some background there, because the schools are close to the construction site, the schools are considered a sensitive receptor location. And that's why we, as noise complaints were being brought to the table, was a concern, obviously, to the schools. We had mentioned the option of installing the noise sensors, which we did with both schools. We then, as we were trying to figure out if we could install at the schools or trying to find a location for the sensor where it gave us direct access or more better feedback from the construction side, we expanded outwards and asked if there were other buildings that were interested. But our main focus really is on the schools. In terms of residential buildings, as you know, anyone can file 311, they can email me. But the noise sensors were installed and we weren't planning to install any more. And that's hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers the question. We previously heard that you were waiting to see if the other sites that we were lower priority, but first trying to verify. So it's good to at least close the loop and tell those shareholders who volunteered that they will not be getting the noise monitors.
Very good. Are you good? Otherwise, good, Adam?
Yeah, that covers the questions I have.
Okay, great.
Good to see you.
Megan?
Megan, you're up.
Megan, are you up?
Sorry, I thought you said Maggie. So
All right, good. You were also very still. I was wondering if you were frozen and then you blinked. So.
Deep in thought. So a follow-up to the noise monitors, have we figured out how or if we can access the data? I know that was a problem that we were discussing previously, and it sounds like it's going to start to get pretty noisy. So that's my one question.
DEP sent us the data from, I think, the final few months, and I sent that out to everyone at the end of last year. But I'm very cool as the work starts up again, if you could make sure to send us the data on a regular basis so we could distribute, that would be great.
Great, thank you. So it'll be like a data dump that will then get distributed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then also,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we did have the sensors on the school. We sent the data to Emily, who distributed. Right now, the sensors, obviously the hiatus, there's no construction. The sensors aren't working. We haven't been monitoring. So the ask right now is, so basically, if I understand, obviously the sensitivity here with the construction site, but I don't want to take up too much time, but basically, if the same issues you feel determined will be the same and would have an impact to the schools, then we can work something out to install new devices to capture some of the noises and then respond to spikes. I just want to very quickly mention, I don't want to take up too much. Again, I just want to very quickly mention that the reason we had those noise sensors was because we partnered with Sounds of New York City, which is right. So NYC, which is NYU Tandem School of Engineering, who received the grant, but we are no longer partnering with them, which means we can't use their noise sensors. However, we are expecting to receive some new devices that we've procured. We don't have them yet. So basically what I'm trying to say now is we are not capturing noise at this point. Those noise sensors that are installed in the school, we are not capturing the noise data. If you all feel it is an issue moving forward, we would be happy to work with you, but we would have to start this over again. And we apologize for that. But it is, the noise sensors were not ours. Again, we had to partner with them. So,
Understood.
yeah, thank you.
So I guess what's sort of concerning about that is that I think, and I also want to double check with Mr. Kwan, that he said it's going to be, is it 5 months of pile driving? Is that, do I understand that right? Not driving, pile vibrating.
He said roughly 5 months.
And do we know when we think that would start?
I believe it's approximately in May. Jay, if you're still on and want to add to that, go ahead.
It'll be around May. That's correct, Adam.
And also, want to point out three other things is that there's a massive spring break from April 5th to the 16th. So if you guys can work that into, maybe when some intensive work needs to happen, still not great for, the people who live there, but at least that's one less. And I'm not sure what Blue School's schedule is for spring break. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is that state testing is in, Maggie, you probably know off your top of your head, right? Oh, looks like, so regions we don't care about. Oh, ELA is April 19th to the 26th. those are the state tests. They're important, and the kids need to have quiet so they can do those and do well on those. I'm not sure what days PEC is doing them, so we need to and talk to Maggie. But then also there's a makeup section, and then there's the math section, which is in May 2nd to the 9th, and then also some makeup dates. So those are some things that I would like you guys to be aware of, that the neighborhoods and the schools would like a little bit more during that time. And then also, was there a reason why the construction company moved from to Suffolk from, I can't remember what the name of the other one was, in the middle of this phase 2 thing? And do you find that, is that going to be problematic as far as coordinating with a new company and new standards? Because we worked really hard with the last company to get an understanding of what we expected to happen for the community, like the trucks being washed down, the covers being put on, all that kind of stuff. Has there been a handoff from the former crew to the now crew to make sure that we don't get back to square one again?
Yes, Megan, it'll be seamless. Suffolk's been working on a pre-construction basis with us for several months in the planning, and they've been fully debriefed and are fully familiar with the site. And in fact, Jerry, who's on the call now, was formerly with Lend-Lease, but we're very pleased to have them on board, and they'll be overseeing the project.
Is that Mr. Bianco? Is that Jerry?
Correct.
Yeah, I thought I recognized. I was like, wait a minute. I thought things moved, and I definitely know that I recognized you and I recognized your voice. Hi.
Hey, Megan. Yes, and to answer your question, I mean, all the requirements that they built under are in the restrictive declaration, and that's what we purchased from the foundation contractor. We'll be following the same rules of engagement. Nothing will change.
Okay, that's great. That's good to know. And I feel like I had something else. No, I think okay. We talked about spring break. We talked about the state tests. End of March, beginning of April is when we should expect new stuff to start happening, and that's going to be them coming in and doing the borings to try to understand what the soil is and where it needs to go.
Borings are first, and then they'll gear up for construction after that.
So when do you expect, because that goes out and it gets tested and that kind of stuff, is that really the excavation and stuff will start, do we think, in May? I'm just is there a
I defer to the construction team, but do know that the results of that soil testing, they don't impact, we don't need to wait for those before we start construction.
Oh, you can start pulling stuff out and they can get directed. Okay.
We've done a ton of characterization across the site to date, so this is just kind of some refinement in specific areas.
Great. So April is when a lot of the excavation will probably start, just so I can ballpark it for people.
Is that right, Jerry?
That's what we're targeting, yes.
Okay, all right. And then pile drive, 5 months, and we thought that it was going to start in May.
Right.
Great.
And again, it's, Megan, not to split hairs, but it's not pile driving, it's drilling.
Drilling. You're right. Because it sets people off. I want to thank you for correcting that.
Understood, but it's not the loud impact pile driving. It's the drilling operation, which is somewhat less noisy.
Drilling. I will make sure to use that word. And I also wanted to say, when I've been talking to families, I told them, Mimi, to the credit of the program, that the air has never been cleaner down there. Like it is in a place that we should all be very, very happy about. And I thank everyone on this call for working through all that together. And I keep telling the families over and over again that it is a far better site, and the air in the neighborhood is cleaner after all this work, and all the stuff that Laura and Tom have worked on. And it just also says how great this working group is. So thank you very much for that.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in here quickly. We did say a noon finish. I know there are a few more questions, which I think a few people have to go. I actually have to chair the meeting of the Senate Housing Committee in the next building over in 5 minutes. So I do need to go. I'm going to go very soon. I'll stay on as long as I can. Just quickly, for DEP, I mean, Umberto, I think you said if there's an interest in noise monitors, we could arrange that. I think there is very much an interest in noise monitors, and I'm not sure what the story was with, the end of the relationship with NYU, but just can we be confident that noise monitors will be available when, even though it's not pile driving begins?
I'll talk to staff and make that request coming from your office. Yes, from you, Senator.
Okay, and I assume from the rest of the assembled colleagues here, and I see Tammy of Community One nodding her head. So just, yeah, if you could let us know quickly, if there's some going to be some difficulty making that happen by the time the sort of noisier work is happening, we would very much, and if there are resources you need to do that, please let us know that as well. I am going to, I see Grace, Tammy, I think had a question as well. Would you be able to sort of moderate the rest of the meeting if I run up to the Housing Committee in a few minutes?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, great. So do you want to let Tammy ask her?
Yes, please.
Comment?
Yeah, let Tammy go ahead.
Great.
So actually, I was just going to do as a follow-up, knowing that we were closing soon, is that yes, we absolutely would like the noise monitoring. Yes, we would really like a schedule, Adam, if you can help put that together so we know when the more intensive drilling is, with a note, please, of the testing dates at the school. Unfortunately, these testing dates are super important as kids scale ahead. So April 19th and 20th and May 2nd and 3rd are the state testing days for PEC-SLIP. Please find out if Blue School is doing testing and follow through with that. This has been a great working group. It has gotten a lot done, and thank you, Megan, for commenting and recognizing that. And our electeds and the support we've had has made this work. So if we could just get through these next set of hurdles with testing dates and noise, I have faith that the monitoring and the concern for the community's health and safety and welfare will be carried through in the next phase. So thank you.
Great. And I just wanted to go back to the noise. I think we had a problem also with the data for the noise monitor. So I just want to make sure that if we do, or when we get these noise monitors up and running, can we just make sure that we're also have access to the data in a way that it can be analyzed in a relatively real-time basis so we can make adjustments. And then the second thing, again, really thank everyone for this group has been amazing. Wanted to confirm also, just in case we run into any problems with during the excavation phase, kind of like the process of notification. I think it worked really well, during when we did get that spike in mercury. I know that Laura Dodge and Tom Fusillo were the first to be notified, and then it kind of trickled down from there. So just kind of wanted to confirm what that the communication path is going to be in those situations.
Yeah, this is Heidi Dudek from DEC. Where the intent is that phase 2 is going to run identical to phase 1, so that communication would be the same.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I know we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to make sure crystal clear that the community was aware that there is going to be a test period for the foundation piles that are being drilled, not driven, but that test period wasn't mentioned. When will, before the full scale 5-month period of foundation piles go in? So can someone speak to when those tests will be done? Just to make sure that the community is aware of when that would happen.
Is the question in relationship to a load test?
I'm not sure if it's a load test. It's just testing that's necessary prior to the full scale installation of the foundation piles.
So I would assume you're referring to a static load test where you put weights on top of the piles so that it can meet the criteria and the capacity that it was engineered for.
Right.
So you need 3 of them on site. The first one would happen sometime in the beginning of April. And then we would load the piles. In terms of loading, you're just loading it and you're waiting. So it's a fairly quiet operation when it comes to testing.
Right, so that might happen actually during the spring break for Peck Slip, since it's
Well,
April
that's
5th.
kind of the
16th.
date that I'm looking at, seeing if we can work it in during that
Right,
period.
perfect. Great. Just wanted to make sure, because I just want to make sure everyone is fully aware of all the different steps in the process so that people's expectations are set accurately. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here, and we'll get the recording distributed so they can be shared with the community, and we'll make sure to reach out to the hotline if we have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.